Welcome to the Nobodies Project Season 2. This is where we interview creatives about their process, their struggle, their inspirations, and all things about their art. In this episode, we have Sam. He's a brewer. He has a project called Brujos while also working for Living House Brewing. He's a good friend, and we talk about how he got to be a brewer and the importance of authentically being yourself and really trusting your own vision. So I hope you enjoy the very, very first episode of Season 2 of the Nobodies Project. Welcome to Season 2 of the Nobodies Project. Our guest today is Sam, and I always butcher your last name, so I'll let you say it.
Zermeño.
Yes, and he's a brewer. I know him through working at Great Notion, and then, of course, he has his own side project brewing with Brujos, as you see on his sweatshirt, and is now working at Living House. Thanks for having me, or having you.
Thanks for coming over. Thanks for
the hospitality's been great.
this.
It feels like you're having us because it feels, so welcoming.
I love having people over and having a fire and just talking. So
yeah, love it. So the first question I always like to ask is, what do you do for money, and then what do you do for art? Which for you, it's one and the same. A little bit
for sure. For money, I'm obviously a brewer. I make beer for a living, and for art, I guess Brujos is my sole focus really when it comes to creating. I do that just to fill the void, like I was telling you about it. But we were looking in your garage a little bit where you used to do a lot of your home brewing, and now it's a more professional setting. Yeah,
but
totally.
You said fill the void and kind of how you started getting into it. How did you start getting into it? Was there any inspirations, or was it just, I think it would be cool to make some beer, and then it just happened to be incredibly well liked by so many people?
I mean, it didn't start off that way, but
yeah, you didn't start out just crushing.
I can't imagine the first beers I made were any good. I thought they were cool. But I started brewing just out of the need to do something. I've always been a creative type of person. I've tried everything. I've tried photography. I've tried music. I was in bands and shit. And none of those really felt right. It was cool to do it. It killed time. But when I found brewing, I was like, oh, shit, I think this is my calling. I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. So I started brewing because I got in this accident and I broke my feet. So I was in a wheelchair for half a year at least. And so while I was in the wheelchair, I was just getting depressed at home. I wasn't able to do much. I wasn't going to work, obviously. I started brewing extract batches at home. Extract meaning syrups and stuff. It's easier brewing. I could do it while I was in a wheelchair on my stovetop. And at the time, my brother lived next door to me, so he would come over and help me with it, the heavier stuff. And once I started doing it at home, it just became this gnarly passion for me where I was like, I don't want to do anything else. Nothing else mattered. Our kid was a year old at the time, and he was just like, what is he doing, Kind
of like mad scientist-esque.
Yeah, I just got obsessed with it, and it took over my life. I just spent all of my time reading up on it, watching videos that were available on YouTube on how to do it, how to do it better, new things. Yeah,
so, I mean, I'm not super well-versed in how brewers become brewers. I assume it's just through trying home brewing, then somebody who knows more than them kind of takes them on. There's not I went to the University of Oregon to study brewing. I'm sure there's more stuff like that now.
Yeah, absolutely. I never went to school for any of this. I taught myself. I guess one of my friends was doing it before me, my friend Eric, and he let me try one day. It was a black IPA. And this was before I was
going to say, that's a while ago.
Yeah,
Black IPAs, you see a couple of them now.
And this dude was homebrewing one, and from what I remember, it was pretty great. And he let me try it, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? This is so cool. It tastes so different than what I was used to, all the cheap beer that you drink as a young kid. And so I tried that, and it sparked the interest, but I didn't start doing it until a few years later after that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about passion, and something that I feel like a lot of creative people.
Yeah.
And I've definitely went through it as well. I'm sure, producer Bradley over there is in the same boat, where you try a bunch of things and then you finally have that moment where you're like, I think I could do this
right here. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Or it just feels right.
And when you had that revelation of like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Were you like, obviously you're excited, but where did your head go like, oh man, if I could do this for a living? Or was it, if I could just make beers I like? Or
yeah, I wasn't even thinking about like the future of it for me. I was just like, this is so fucking cool. I'm going to continue to do this because it just felt right. Just taking raw ingredients and creating like liquid spells out of it and shit. And I don't know. It felt like I was supposed to be doing it. And so I just followed my heart and I kept doing it and eventually gave it a name. And actually, funny story, my dad he came up with the name like jokingly one day while my brother and I were brewing on our driveway. He said, "Parecen brujitos haciendo toloache," which means you guys look like little wizards making potions and shit. And the name Brujitos like stuck with me. I was like, whoa, that's fucking cool. That's a cool name.
Yeah, it is.
And so that night, I think I was like, I had all these names written down. I was like, what am I going to call it? Am I going to call it this, that? And then Brujos just came up. I was like,
was this before, like, obviously you were getting all your friends to try your beers, but was this
I had no friends, actually. When I started making beer, I had like one friend.
Your brother and
no,
one
my
other?
brother and like Eric, the guy that was making beer. I knew other people, but I never hung out with anybody really. I was a fucking loner.
Yeah. So how did you, so that's actually a really good point of like a lot of creatives struggle to find that community of like other people to lift them up, other people to even just like, for example, photography or design or anything, just having other people look at your stuff.
Yeah.
Even if they're like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, it helps you a lot.
Yeah, totally.
How did you like improve that? Like being alone, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Is like, was it just you and your brother just like, this is good, this is good? And then
we were just doing
belief?
Just doing it, trying the beers. We were super excited to bottle each batch by hand and shit. We would take old bottles and clean them real well and like recycle them. And eventually I was like, you know what, we need to buy bottles and like put labels on them and put brujos on them just so they look cool, just because it sounded like something cool to do, not because there was like an agenda. It was like, let's just do that. That would be sick.
The
then
name
when
inherently is very cool sounding.
Yeah.
Before you even hear the story, Brujos is a great name for it.
Yeah, I was like, this is it. I looked it up online. No one had it as far as I knew. And yeah, to this day, no one else had it. Maybe like another
I'm
winery
sure somebody
has
maybe
something that's
called
similar.
a beer it or like had it in the name of a beer, but
the name itself as like a brand wasn't taken yet. So I was like, I'm gonna jump on it now.
Right.
Came up with the logo, all that stuff.
Like the name itself, Brujos, cool name, but I'm also interested in the branding, how you got there. It's very metal inspired. Yeah. Just looking at your artwork and everything, the artists that you have are really, really cool. Every label that I've seen come in, because I get to deal with all the labels, are just, I mean, they're a little spooky for my taste.
Yeah,
but
totally.
They're very cool looking.
Yeah, I have a few friends that do my art. One that I'm gonna stick with for this entire year, and maybe a couple. One of them is Adam Burke. He's from Portland, actually. He did the new ones for the stout bottles that are coming out next month.
The
Familiars, and Bird Point.
Yeah. I think those might be out by the time we put this out, but it's going to be the next couple weeks. Yeah.
I heard March 10th.
Yeah.
So like a month from
now. So if this
now.
comes out beforehand, people are going to get stoked on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super inspired by music. Like most of my beer names are named after a lyric or a song, and like the art kind of just goes with everything that the lyric means in some way. To me, like the one man black metal musicians have been like the biggest inspiration for me, and like just one man bands in general.
Yeah,
super inspired by that. I took what I liked from that and kind of applied it to my own art in a way, without trying to really entirely rip people off. Just like, this is what I like. obviously you said some of my stuff is a little scary. I have like a weird fascination with skulls and death and shit. It's big in my culture, so
Yeah.
I've just applied all of the stuff that I've grown up liking into this, and for some reason some people feel like they connect with it and it's cool as fuck.
Yeah. Some of the fans that I see like interact with you, or so it's very cool to see people so stoked on something. It's pretty niche, like it is like not just craft brewing. It's like very specific kind of craft brewing with a very specific brand on top of it.
Yeah,
and you can tell the people that connect really connect. Like even the people at Great Notion, like Andrew at Great Notion, like really connects.
They all
really
wear the merch and stuff.
Yeah. Around Great Notion, I'm pretty sure I see more Brujos merch than Great Notion merch.
I mean, I love all the guys there that support it, all the girls, everyone has been super nice and supportive. It's always kind of weird but super cool to see someone wearing your brand and shit, especially when you don't know that person, which has been happening more lately. Like we just went to Foreland, the study, and some guy was wearing my hoodie, this hoodie actually, and I was like, cool hoodie, man. He's like, oh thanks, do you work for them or something? And I was like, kinda. And he was like, cool, man. And I was like, all right, see ya. I'm like, oh cool, like me wearing the cloak and the fucking like face cover is working, because the more I do this, the more I kind of don't want my face to be out as much, because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the brand.
And I feel like you do that very well. Like it's one thing to have your beer in people's hands. You're like, this is what I made. But somebody who connects with the beer so much that they want to wear the logo. Yeah. But to your point, I love that story, because we've done some photo shoots for Brujos and stuff. Yeah. And you kind of have an outfit of sorts. Totally. You know, the mask over with the wardrobe, or the what's it called? The robe. Yeah. You told me the story about it recently, but I would love for you to tell the story of how you got your robe, because it's so specific, but it's so cool.
Yeah, it's custom made to my fit. I was searching for this girl for forever, it feels like. There's this band called Sun. They wear these robes. They're fucking awesome. And I've always been like super into that, just people that wear robes for whatever reason. I was an altar boy at one point. I was wearing a robe at church and shit. That shit was funny. That was like my favorite part of going to church, was wearing a robe and being a part of the show.
I'm sure the church would love where you're at now.
But so I finally found out who this girl was. Her name is Alexandra Groover. And I reached out to her during, like, right before the pandemic hit. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you do this for everyone or if you do it at all. I know she made the ones for her son. And she was like, yeah, I can make you one, but it'll have to be different. Like, I don't make the same robe twice. And I was like, that's exactly what I want. I want my own. I actually drew one like the way I wanted it made, and she took it and made it like even better. And I spent some.
Do you still have those sketches?
Probably somewhere in my office.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be very cool to keep.
It's probably in there somewhere. Yeah, or a picture of it at least. Yeah. So I reached out to her, and then pandemic hits, and so it took her much longer than she was anticipating, because she had to move and stuff. And when it finally showed up, I was like, oh my God, this is everything I wanted it to be. And I put it on immediately. My wife's like, you're such a dork. But I don't care. I was like, this is what I like. I'm going to wear it. This is going to be part of the brand. I
mean, with your social media now, it's like iconic, where it's
like
all the other breweries that get into it with you. Like the latest one with the.
They all ask if I brought it. Like, yo, is the robe here? I'm like, of course it's here. Like, it's ready to go. Let's do it. Yeah,
I love it, because I've asked, because we've done some Halloween beers, and I've asked for a robe, and the first time I heard about it, you were like, I have a robe that you can use, and then I have my robe. And I'm like, all right, interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, you can't borrow that one.
That one's too nice.
Yeah.
But love that. The brand is it's very you.
Yeah.
And it very much has the ethos of like what I would expect when you see the label, and when you actually drink the beer and everything, it's usually darker, heavier stuff that has crazy amounts of flavor in it.
But I like bold beers. I like to pack my beers with as many hops as I can possibly put in there without it being like undrinkable.
Yeah, just right on the edge of drinkable.
Yeah, just like.
What is something I also like to ask is, what's some of the like your projects that you thought were going to go over really, really, really well, and then were not received very well? But I'm guessing with you, even if it wasn't received well, you're like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I know it's good. But was there anything like that you're just like, people are going to eat this shit up? And they're like, eh.
Yeah, I think the last release I did at Great Notion, the stout, I think I needed more time on it, but I ran out of time. And I think I could have made that even better. But even then, everyone was like, the beer's great, man. That was definitely one of the ones I wish I could have like taken back and just like worked on it more before I released it. But
how do you deal with like keeping that quality high, maybe even like expectations, like just for yourself? Because I feel like you keep expectations for how good your beer is super, super high, even if everybody else, because I'm sure you're at the point where just like that, everybody you'll show somebody a beer and everybody's going, oh, it's so good, it's so good. And very few people are going to be like, Sam, this isn't your best.
Yeah, very few people, and those people are the people I like to hang out with the most because they're honest, and I know when I put a beer out what it is. Like, I've tried it. I judge my own shit. I criticize myself like deeply. I'm like, this could have been this, it could have been that. But as long as I think it's like good, I'm okay with putting it out. There's been some homebrew batches I did, actually quite a few, that I was just like, this fucking beer sucks, dumped it. And my wife would be like, no, it's actually fine. I was like, nope, trying again. I'm going to try again. I just don't want to put it out there. I care deeply about what I do, and I hope it shows when I present people with the beers that I make, because, I wouldn't have it any other way, really.
Oh, it definitely does. Have you ever, or what's your biggest like rut you went in? Has there ever been like you had to pour 2 batches and you're like, I don't know if I should be doing this?
Yeah.
Like, where's the doubt, or like their biggest rut? Or
yeah, I mean, there was one moment where like I had this beer in a barrel and I was so stoked on it, and somehow an infection took over, and so the beer was fucked, and it was in the barrel for some time, and so I had to get rid of it, and that shit broke my heart. I was like so discouraged to keep doing it that I just kind of stopped for a while and just focused on my beers at work and like getting better there. And then eventually I came out of that rut, and I was like, dude, I'm good at this. Like, let's keep going. Like, what are you doing? You don't just stop because you failed once. You just get up and you do it again. And so I did, and now I haven't had anything like that recently. I hope it doesn't come again soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's bound to happen.
But it will. It's bound to happen.
You're never going to be perfect the whole time.
No, it's impossible. But I don't know. I'm always just trying to be better and trying to push the envelope, try new things and whatnot.
Yeah. So speaking of like, maybe favorite projects that didn't work out, is there any projects maybe coming up, or basically the question is like dream beer that you get to make that maybe you don't have the equipment yet, you don't have the access to, fruits, whatever it is. Is there a dream beer that you one day hope to make?
There's a lot of dream beers.
I mean, that could be this whole podcast. That could be this whole podcast.
For sure. I'm going to get to work with some of my favorite people in the industry this year by myself, because I'm going to start releasing my own beers to the public as myself. I no longer have like this big sponsor. Like when I had Great Notion, it's just me now. And so being able to collaborate with these people on my own, under my own brand, is going to be fucking cool. I have a lot of big plans for this year as far as all the projects that I'm working on. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I love lager beer. I don't think the brand is really representative of the style, but I make lager beer at work, so like
I would be really stoked to see like a crazy brujos lager.
Yeah, I will eventually make one. I want to make a nice light lager that I can just drink at any given time and not feel palate fatigued or anything like that.
What's your favorite beer you've ever made? Is there a beer that just stands out? Or for me, it's a lot of recency bias. So like whatever is the most recent, because I keep getting better. So naturally, the last one's usually pretty good. But was there one that you're like, I don't know if I can top that guy?
There's a few homebrew batches I made some years ago that I thought were outstanding, but I don't know, maybe the new stuff I've made is better than that, and I just don't remember really.
Yeah.
I love that most of my beers exist once, and then you probably won't see that shit ever again. Or maybe you will, but it'll be a long time before that happens because I have so much other shit I want to do. So if I do circle back to that, it's because I'm running out of ideas. And the way I'm doing my project now, where it's like so spread out, I have so much time to think about one thing. I don't know if I'm going to release the same beer twice very often, if ever. Maybe that lager, when I get to make that one, will make that like a staple beer.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea of having it's very exclusive. I mean, it's part of the reason why there's hype around, brewers who do stuff similar, where it's this moment and it's that, but it's not beautiful, for, and the thing that I really take away from you, when I talked to you in the past, is it's never been about, I want to sell so many beers. I want people to experience this beer, and it's kind of about being in that moment.
Yeah, totally. Make memories when you drink these beers. If you get stoked, that's awesome. It's like traveling. You get to visit places. Like, you go back to that place, it's not the same. Like, you're not as stoked because you're like, I've already been here.
Well, it's not the same if you do the same thing.
Yeah.
It'd be sweet to go to England 3 times, but if you go and do the exact same things every time,
you'd be like, I've already done this. I already had this experience. Like, this isn't cool anymore. Yeah. So that, like, approach to beer or anything in general, I think is cool.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
We're going to take maybe 5-10 minute break. Cool. And then we'll come back for 20-25 more minutes, talk about some imposter syndrome, some social media, which I'm sure you love. And we'll finish it out. So we're back. I usually like to talk about some like social media stuff, and also, which goes hand in hand, like imposter syndrome. How does that bode with you, in the sense that obviously you worked at other breweries and everything like that, but putting yourself out there as like, my beer is as good as, these other breweries, these other small brewers. How was like putting yourself out there and constantly having kind of that expectation on you to produce really good stuff? Do you ever get in your head about it, or is it just, I just hope people still like it?
I don't really think about that much, honestly. I just put my shit out there because I'm stoked on it, and I hope that someone else is. And that's really that. I mean, I honestly don't think much about when I post. I don't know if you've seen my post, but like I don't even give you like a flavor description. I'm like, this is the name, this is the ABV, try it. Because I just don't want you to go in with expectations like, oh, it's gonna taste like sweet tarts and whatever the shit, because my palate's different than yours, and you might taste different things that I don't taste in the beer, and I'm like, holy shit. So experience it for yourself. I've never been like, you should compare me to anyone. I don't want to be compared to other people. I just want to be different.
Yeah, I love that. Do you struggle with, because first off, I'm very jealous of your mindset of, I don't care what most people think, I just put it out. I'm constantly thinking the opposite.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's tough. But what did you just say at the end there that I really liked?
I forgot.
Oh yeah, you just want to be different. So thinking that way, obviously a lot of that's just, I'm just going to be myself, and every human is creative. Everybody is different. Right. Yeah. So how do you struggle at all with when you go to make a beer, you're like, I want this to be different, and then you look up maybe other people's beer or whatever it is. How do you constantly be different? Because when people talked about your beer, and I didn't have it yet, I was like, oh, I'm sure it's like, like a hazy, it's great, but like, I could, and I'm not a super hardcore beer person, like how some of the people at Great Notion are comparatively.
For sure.
But when I taste a beer, I know almost instantly it's your beer.
Yeah.
So how do you
That's cool.
get to that point where you're like, I want to be different, but are you looking around and being like, well, I don't want to be like that, I don't want to be like that? Or is it just all internal, which is kind of the theme, it feels like?
It's all internal. I feel like, like I said, I don't think about it much. When I realized I should just be me early on in my 20s, I was like, that's when like the pieces started coming together, like all the shit that turned me into me, like just came to me, and I was like, I'm going to embrace all of that and just be me as much as I can. I mean, ultimately what I want more than anything in life is to be as free as possible, to be me without caring about like judgment or whatever. Like, I want to be able to do brujos the way I want to do it. I don't want anyone else to ever have like control over that. 'Cause it's my baby, dude. I'm like, this is my project. Like,
Yeah.
if you like it, cool. If you don't, that's also super cool.
Right. It kind of brings me to a question that I've asked often is, I tend to ask some artists who are in the process of creating their own thing, kind of becoming self-sustaining.
Yeah.
But I would ask, would getting paid for your art that you deem like your art, the thing that you want to do, would that help or hurt like your creation of art? So how has turning something home brewing that maybe made you some money on the side to doing it almost full time, has that helped your art spur on because you get better equipment, or is it, or do you think you would be making even better beer if maybe you were doing something different, but you just used all that money for brewing?
The money's definitely helped me, in the sense of like being able to work with artists that ask for a little more for their work, you know, like, which is ultimately what I want to do. I want to present the brand as cool as possible, at least to myself. So when I get money from any of this, I put it right back into it, just so I can keep doing it and keep putting cool shit out there until I'm like just done with it. At some point, I'm sure I will be done with it, and it'll be cool to look back at all the stuff I did and just appreciate it for what it is. And if I get rich, cool. If I don't, that's also super cool. I don't really care.
Yeah, even just looking back at your journey now and like kind of what inspired Brujos to come around, like the injury where you broke both your legs, and like
shit was gnarly.
Was that a turning point for not just you as a brewer, obviously, because that kind of spurred that, but you kind of talked about as a person. Like, is that when it all kind of came together?
Yeah, it all changed after that for me. I had to learn how to walk again and shit. Like, that was brutal. And so, yeah, I looked at things different after that. I still hurt from that injury to this day. Like, I wake up limping most days. But once I get walking, it's fine. But yeah, that incident changed my perspective on life and everything. And my son too. I mean, having him and having someone to provide for aside from yourself and my wife, we both make a great team. Yeah, that injury was life-changing in so many ways, dude. Like, from the moment it happened to like now, like I think about it daily. Like, it's like if that didn't happen to me, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know if I would have started brewing. I don't think I would have, or maybe I would have, but not till later on.
Right.
Maybe I wouldn't have fallen in love with it like I did, because when I started doing it and I was in a wheelchair, that was like my thing. It was like, this keeps me sane. I was able to get my creative juices flowing and like just keep my mind in a good space. Yeah, I don't know. That accident changed everything for me.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously the accident is not great, but it did have positive effects.
Yeah, it's like a blessing.
I feel like
disguise.
a lot of life is just timing.
Yeah, dude.
And how things work out, or how things are going to work out.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad things worked out for you.
Yeah, I mean, same, dude. It's so weird to me that I'm here doing this and I'm getting paid for it now. And like, I wasn't really looking to get paid. I was just like, this is fucking cool.
Yeah, I love what you talked about in the future, where in the future, if you stop doing it right now, you could look back and be like, man, that was a pretty cool ride.
Yeah.
But talking about
that all the time.
Talking about some future stuff, something I really love that you do, and maybe other small brewers do this, but this idea that you go on tour.
Yeah.
It's so ingrained in like a band.
I love the whole,
growing up, I think you're probably in the same boat. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be everybody had that.
Everyone wants to be a rock
star. So is that
star.
tour kind of you manifesting some of that, or is it just like, that's a really cool way to brand. I'm going to go collab with some people. And can you talk about some of the people you got to collab with, some of your favorites you got to collab with?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that idea happened out here. I was sitting up there having a fire, and I was like, it'd be cool if we like, instead of going to one place and doing one collab, we did like a tour and we collabed with a handful of people all at once. Not at once, but like throughout like a week or two. And made a band looking shirt where like the breweries are on the back and the date of the collab is on the back. just like a band would do. And I got really fucking excited about the idea, so I was like, I'm gonna do it. I don't care. Like, this sounds cool. Some people will like it. Some people will think it's cheesy, whatever. I think a lot of people are excited that it's got that whole like band feel to it.
Yeah,
like that
with
they haven't seen that kind of shit
spells
before.
on the top of it. Like, it just if you didn't know what Brujos was,
you would think it's a band.
You'd think
shit.
it's a band.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All it's missing is dates. Dates in the location.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I was going for when I did that. And I just did the most recent one, and I plan to do another one in the summer, hopefully. And I was going to do a European one, like a Scandinavia tour. I still can. I got invited by Henok of Omnipolo to brew with him at his church brewery. So I'm going in April. So I'm like, fuck, can I squeeze in like... But I don't want to make anything feel forced. That just kind of happened organically. Right. He hit me up. He was like interested in what I'm doing. And so I was like, I'm on my way, dude. I'm coming. And he's like, sick. Let's brew some beer at the church.
Dude, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about some of those collabs.
The collabs from the tour.
What are some of your favorites? And then, of course, I'm going to ask like a dream collab that in the perfect world you get to collab with blank on what? Or like maybe 2 or 3 different breweries do a big collab.
I think my favorite collab from this East Coast tour that we did was Troon. Those guys are incredible.
Oh my God, yeah.
Those guys are just so nice and so welcoming, and we have so much in common, yet we're still different. They brought us into their home, and we stayed there for a few days, and they took us to Philadelphia and just treated us like we were longtime friends, and we had just really met recently. And their whole ethos is very similar. Like, they're very niche, very small. I love what they're doing.
Tiny. Yeah, I was surprised how small they were, because working with the social media Great Notion, they have the most insane engagement of any company I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's great.
And I just thought they were like, mid-size.
Yeah.
And they are so small.
They're definitely a small brewery, and I think they're looking to expand a little bit. But Cameron from 8th State was super nice. I love that dude. Everyone else, the guys from Fidens were amazing. Like, all these people that we brewed with were just so nice and shit. They like put us up in hotels. Like, what the fuck?
So it is like a tour.
Yeah, it was like a tour. Like, they were like, don't worry about anything. We'll take you out to eat. We'll pay for your rooms. I was like, I didn't come out here for like handouts. I came out here to like make some cool shit with you guys. But it was more than I expected, for sure. Like, the generosity was wild. Anthony from Root and Branch, that dude's fucking awesome. He's been doing something like what I'm trying to do for a long time, and he's finally got his own place, and it's fucking cool. Mortalis guys were sweet as fuck. Everyone on that tour was just so cool. Yeah.
I always love seeing, just through your personal Instagram, seeing your Instagram stories, and then also Ivan, who's usually with you. It's really fun to see you basically go on tour and doing all those things. And it kind of feels like a tour
there
as well.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, what does he do now?
So going back to, do you have a dream one, or is there somebody, maybe you're working with them in the future, or somebody on your list that you haven't worked with yet? Because honestly, you've already collabed with some unbelievable breweries so far. But is there any
I would love to brew with Henry from Monkish, because he definitely is one of those people that inspired me the most when that whole hazy IPA craze blew up in California. I was living there at the time, and I would wait in those lines to get those cans and shit. I don't know. I think what he's done with that brand is incredible. He's definitely one of those people I'd love to brew with, just to get to know him more.
Right.
Seems like an interesting person. I would love to keep working with Troon when we are going to keep working together on some new projects this year.
Well, I'm sure people are going to be stoked to hear that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. As well as Root and Branch and Fidens. We got some cool projects in the works, and that's what keeps me going right now. I'm like, I can't wait. I have to, because if you live that way, no, I can't wait to get to that. And then you get to that point and it's over. You don't enjoy
put
it
too
as
much expectations on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy the journey a little bit as you're going.
Enjoy the journey, and when that happens, I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm personally excited for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
What is, I mean, it sounds very much like go with the flow, whatever's happening happens. But in terms of Brujos' future, obviously kind of working with Living House right now, doing some other stuff, but is there any, and you don't have to share any of the future plans if you don't want to, but is there any like, oh, I'd love to open my own tap room, I'd love to expand into my own thing, or I like where I'm at? I
think a tap room sounds like an ideal situation for me rather than like a brewery per se.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I ever want to grow so much that I need a whole brewery to do it. If I can continue to work the way I'm working with Living House right now, where I use their facility to brew my beer and then we sell it out of there under their licenses and stuff, I think, I don't know, for me it feels like the way to go for this project, because if I do get to the point where I'm like, I'm done with this shit, then I can just step away and I don't owe anybody anything. It's like, I can just like, shake hands with whoever I shake hands with and call it
like almost
a day.
The perfect amount of responsibility.
Yeah,
because you could hand it out to the guys. I mean, Conrad, everybody over there at Living House would handle with so much care.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There's so many other people that are so talented that could help you, or live on the name, or close down Brujos, but you know, keep the legacy going wherever it is. So
tap room would be cool. That's kind of what I've been thinking about for.
Yeah. And you're from California. Would you want to? I mean, obviously Portland's home base.
Yeah.
But
I'm from Mexico, but I lived in Cali most of my life.
Yeah. Where would you want to open? Would it be?
It would probably
in
be here because we're trying to establish our roots here. Our son is in school and we've moved him around a lot to get to this point. And it doesn't feel fair to me. I moved around a lot as a kid and I thought that shit sucked because like you make friends and then you're like pulled away from them and now you got to make new friends. And now he's got some friends that he like holds dearly to him, and I would hate to take him away from that. So I think Portland or somewhere out here is where this will happen.
Yeah. How talking about putting roots down, how excited are you to get to the day where you and your son get to brew together? Was that something that you think will happen, or you're like,
we've done a few homebrews and he's definitely showed interest in brewing, like on his own. He's like, I would love to learn how to do this, Dad. It seems like a cool thing. I'm like,
does that just fill you with so much pride?
It's cool, but it's also like scary because I'm like, this life is hard. You know, like the brewing industry is a tough industry to be in. There's so much alcohol involved, and
it's not all glory with all the money, but the alcohol alone. Yeah, and it's not like there's money flowing everywhere.
No, that, and it's like it's a dangerous industry to be in if you like abuse the consumption of it. You know. Which a lot of us do. I mean, myself included. There's times where I'm like, fuck, I should chill out on drinking, but I'm around it, so fuck it, I'll have another one.
Yep.
And I don't know if I want that life for him, but I mean, maybe I can guide him in a better direction when he gets to that point if he wants to do it too.
Right. I couldn't see a world where you'd be like, no, I want you to do this. It's
no way.
If you want to
hell no.
No. And thankfully, I would say the brewery industry, and Great Notion does a good job of it, and I'm sure Living House is similar, where it's less pressure and it's more like the industry as a whole is starting to progress in a way where recognizing, you know, alcohol isn't just like, you know, let's just get fucked up every single day.
Yeah, no.
Like Great Notion does a really good job.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a great thing to have as a company, like ethos, like, you know, like enjoy some beers, but don't abuse it and shit. Get home safe.
Yeah. So the other thing I always like to bring up is how social media works, because a lot of the hype especially through Troon, like I already brought up, but Brujos also has a very strong social media following that you put some work into, but it's mostly, and this is how I think social media should work, they only really follow because obviously they follow you because the beer's really good, and then they stay because they like you as a person, they like the brand.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like you're formulating people to come to the social media. It's beer first. Yeah. Brand, maybe myself.
Yeah.
Third back there.
Yeah.
Right? But how does social media, how does that play a part in Brujos and just as you as a person outside of it?
I mean, it plays a big part for Brujos because that's like the only outlet I really use to let people know what I'm up to with the brand. So like I don't have a Facebook anymore. I don't use that shit. just got tired of it. I was like, I think Instagram is fine. And for me as a person, I mean, I used social media to definitely like raise awareness of what I've been up to and like myself and my accomplishments. As I get older, I'm like finding I don't really care as much about like posting and doing shit like that. I'm posting less and less. I just really want to focus most of my energy on brujos and my family. And so you'll see more brujos posts than my personal posts and shit. And like I was saying, yeah, I'm trying to kind of block out the face. So it's more about the brand versus the person. It's like, if you like the brand, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you would probably like the person too if you like the brand.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know.
Sweet. So to close out, I have a couple little quicker questions where one I always like to ask is, if you could get maybe 1 million followers on Brujos tomorrow, or just keep the following you have now, which one would you do?
I don't know what 1 million followers would do for me. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
I like the following I have now.
Because they're already bought in.
Yeah, I'd like to think that most of those people have been following for a long time. Because Brujos has been around for like 9 years on social media. So like I have 9,000 followers. That's 1,000 followers a year. That's
not bad.
That's fine. If it keeps growing, cool. I mean, yeah.
That one's a pretty obvious one. There's some people where it's interesting how they take it, but for you, it's all about, do you buy into the branding? If I don't want anybody who doesn't.
Yeah, I don't want to go out of my way to make you like my shit or to have you see it through a sponsored ad or something like that. Like, if you come across it, you were supposed to come across it, especially if you like it. And you're like, yes, this is right up my alley or whatever. Like, this, it looks cool. Or, yeah. And
then, so is there a point that you would get to where you're like, shit, I like made it? Like, this is exactly what I not set out to do, but like I've accomplished all my goals? Or is it just constantly growing where maybe you had a goal before and you keep hitting it, so you realize that it's not really about hitting the goals, it's about how you're getting there?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely accomplished some of the things I wanted to, but I'm always like just trying to do more because it fills my void. And it feels good to see people get excited about what you do. It gives you like a sense of purpose. I have that here at home with my son, which is a different kind of fulfillment, and it's amazing. And my wife and my dog. But when it comes to your art, it's super cool to see people get excited about it. And
and then the last question is, where do you find, so this is an interesting one because your work is also making beer, where do you find the time to really dedicate it to the art of it all? So maybe that's just working on Brujos stuff, whether it be brands, collab, everything like that, comparatively to work, because having a full-time job and then after that you're like, okay, I'm going to do my second job. It's always tough. So where do you find that time?
Usually at night when my family goes to sleep. Or on weekends, if they leave and I'm here by myself, I'm like, yes, dude, I have all this time to think and like just like talk to my artist friends and come up with ideas for new branding or new merch or whatever. Always trying to keep things like interesting and different. Usually when I'm alone is when I do most of my Brujos thinking and.
Which would make some sense.
Like out here having a fire.
So we talked about how you were kind of a loner before. You only had with Eric.
Seriously, man.
How is that? How is your community now?
I mean,
and how important is that community to you?
It's super important. I mean, I didn't have any fucking friends, man. Like, I struggled with that shit all throughout school because of my like language barrier. When I came to the States, I didn't speak English. So I had to teach myself because my family didn't speak it.
Right.
And so that was really hard for me. I never really made many friends until I got a little bit older. I made a couple friends. And then when I got into the beer industry and I just started putting beers out there and shit on social media, like the local community then when I was living in Riverside was like, yo, how can we try your stuff? And I was like, what? There's people interested in this shit? I thought this was just like a I wasn't sure what social media was.
Yeah, like me and my brother will just drink it, and
yeah,
that's cool.
like we're like logging pictures of cool shit that we did. And so I started meeting people in the local community, and they were just like stoked on it. Like it was like something different. They hadn't seen it before. They're like, you're homebrewing this and labeling it and doing all that, putting art on it. That's so cool. I
love that DIY where you weren't like, no, you're like, fuck it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
I'll do all of it myself.
Yeah,
Hopefully somebody will like it, but whatever.
For years. It was super cool to see that. And so I started making like friends, meeting acquaintances and stuff, and eventually got offered a job as a brewer.
Where at?
Black Market Brewing in Temecula. Okay. That was my first brewing job. I worked there for a couple of years, and I definitely learned a lot there. My friend Kyle was our head brewer at the time there, and he taught me a ton about like scaling batches up from like home to like 15 barrels, whatever.
Yeah, I love that little origin story of like, we just put it out, people were interested, and it just started growing and growing.
And then people started reaching out to us, and before I knew it, I like knew so many people in my town that otherwise I probably never would have met or hung out with.
Yeah,
we just had similar interests.
I mean, and it brought you all the way eventually to Portland.
Yeah, eventually it got me here to the point where like I ended up working at one of my favorite breweries, Great Notion. And I was like, what the fuck? These guys want to hire me as one of their brewers?
Not just hire, but like we want you to make your own beers with us. Like,
that was wild to me, man. That was like a dream come true. I couldn't believe it. It's still kind of weird to look back at it and be like, holy shit, I did that. That's like, what's next? Let's keep going.
Yeah, I'm so stoked to see what comes next. And
same, dude. I can't wait. I get to brew my first solo beer next week, and I'm like just as excited as ever. Like, I feel like I'm about to brew my first beer ever and shit.
That same spark is
I'm
just
like,
huge.
oh, dude, just fucking wait. I have the can art, and I mean the cans are coming. All this stuff. I'm ready to go solo and shit and do it and see how people respond to that.
Oh, I love that.
It's gonna be sick.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's when you really know it's truly the passion, is when you're doing a new project and you feel like it's the first time you found it.
Fuck yeah, dude. This is gonna be great.
Yeah. Can you share what that beer is gonna be, or do you want to keep it secret?
Yeah, it's a big hazy triple IPA.
Of course. Brujos fashion.
Yeah, so this time instead of like labeling the cans or printed, and the print came out amazing. Craft Canning does a great job of that. They were super stoked on the can art and shit, and they were like, dude, this is probably one of the coolest things we've ever done. So that was like inspiring to me. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, thanks, man. The beer is called Ad Arma. It's in, I believe it's Latin for like come to arms, like ready for war kind of shit, because I'm like going up against everyone now on my own, It's a tough industry. It's very competitive. And I don't know. I hope I stand out until I'm done with it.
I mean, you've definitely stood out so far.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's so dope that if you haven't tried Brujos beer, if you see it anywhere, it's honestly, it's hard to get. But if you see it anywhere, please try it. It's unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah.
But dude, thanks so much for
thanks for coming and hanging out with me. This is
having
cool.
us here and letting us come into your house and record.
Yeah.
And also just letting me interview you. I mean, we've talked so much at work, and it just made a lot of sense, and I'm super stoked that this happened.
I'm excited that you guys thought of me for this, because like I was telling you, I'm not big on like interviews and shit.
Oh, I know. I've tried to get you to do social media stuff before.
But this was cool. This felt right. I was like, I know Marky. I want to hang out. I want to have a fire with these dudes. It'll be cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us, and I'm super stoked about this one.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cool. Thanks.